I can't go. I can't.
Yeah.
No, so we live. That's fine. Oh, yeah. How about we say we're here till noon?
Hold on a second, just hold on, Barry.
Okay, sorry we're a couple minutes late. We've been getting a fabulous update from our Boxell leadership team about the work that's going on in our schools, about professional learning communities and how things are. So that was really valuable for us as board members, and we appreciate patience a little bit late, but I'll call this meeting to order. And our first item on the agenda is we have a reverence by Superintendent Steve Carlson, and then Wade Hyde, or Wade's right there. Okay. Flag salute, Pledge of Allegiance, and then
I'd like to just read a quote, being that it is September the 8th, and I believe it's this Saturday is September 11th. We all know it's 20 years since that fateful day, and looked through a variety of quotes and found one I liked. Remember the hours after September 11th when we came together as one. It's the worst day we have ever seen, but it brought out the best in all of us. And, you know, as I look at our country right now with some of the things that are going on, some of the turmoil we're going through with the pandemic and a variety of other things, it did me good to think back when we had the great come together afterwards. I saw a great program. I'm not even sure which channel it was on. I think it was Sunday evening. They just talked about the firehouse that was closest to the towers and the things that they went through that particular day and the things they've gone through since. And it's really, really touching. I'm glad it just was one of those things you happen on by circumstance. And so I think it would behoove us all if we could find that unity that we had on September 12th, and for those few months after, maybe a few years, and maybe come back together and battle this pandemic and some of the things that are going on in our country together. It's better than we're doing it separately. So with that, I'd like to. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful tonight as we get to gather together as education leaders in this great country, this great state, this great county. Grateful for Box Elder School District, and we're grateful for the support of education, the great people in this school district who, through taxes and other means, provide a great opportunity to educate students. We're grateful for the land in which we live and for the great hope it gives us all to be able to go forward and be able to do great things. Father, we ask that we'll be able to have a great meeting tonight, be mindful and thoughtful of the needs of the students in this great school district. And we ask you to be able to have everyone be safe as they travel home afterwards, and do so in Jesus Christ.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Superintendent Wade. I appreciate those thoughts. I remember when I was in high school, I don't know, the flag, the country, I get really emotional sometimes, and especially when we have anniversaries like September 11th, and we all remember where we were. But when I was in high school, I remember every time they play the national anthem, and I get tears in my eyes, and I have to look up to see my mom and dad so I can calm down before we went. But I'm grateful that we live in a country and a place where we can show respect and remember the freedoms that we have. So we're going to move on to, we have a student board member, which we're really, really excited about, Sean Robinson. Those of you who don't know, every year we have a student representative, and we alternate between high schools. Every year Box Elder, and this year it's Box Elder, right? Like, I don't know which year it's up. She's from Box Elder High School, and she will be representing as a student board member on our board this year. And we're going to get her trained and teach her what to do, but it's basically, she's going to be giving us input and sharing student feedback on some of the things and the policies that we take care of and that we discuss as a board of education. So she needs to be sworn in, so we're going to turn that time over to Rod to make it official.
Okay, you're sworn in just like the rest of the board members. If you'll stand up and bring your right arm to a square and just repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey,
obey,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of this state,
of this state,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office with fidelity.
the duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay. If you'll sign that, absolutely.
Thanks, Rod, and we're excited to have you here, Sean. And please know that you're welcome to ask. You don't have to remember all our names. But everybody welcomes you, and you're welcome to ask questions. And you get to sit my colleague this first time, and she's fabulous. So she can explain everything, what's going on. Yeah, why don't you do that, Sean? Will you introduce yourself?
Push the button on the mic. want to hear it in recording, right?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Robinson. I'm a senior at Box Elder High School. I'm also a member of student government and I'm in productions company. So I really love being involved in our school. As a student board member, I'm looking forward to learning about our school district and all the different things that the board does. And I hope to represent our students well. Education is something that I'm interested in potentially going into as a career. So I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be here and to learn. So thank you all for having me. Yes, I am. Big time, yeah. Oh.
You all excited to see it.
So is that called free advertising or?
Yeah.
Every week from now then, right? It's November 5th to 15th. You can get your tickets on Box Elder.
You are fabulous. Anybody who's listening at home, I hope there's people logged in. That's a public service announcement for the great place. Thank you. We are going to turn the time over to Tiffany for our recognitions and.
Yeah, first recognition is for Mr. Jason Vega. Stand up just so you don't have to stay standing. Thank you for being here, Mr. Vega. We would like to offer our congratulations to you for your selection as the Air Force Association, I believe the Salt Lake City Chapter 237, right? Teacher of the Year Award for 2020. You were nominated and selected to receive this award because of the outstanding professional you are in and out of your classroom. Your desire to continue to learn and develop as an educator translates to your students as you continue to inspire them to work and learn with you. We're very grateful for teachers like you who work to find new technology and develop interesting approaches to learning for our students. It is obvious to the administrators at Box Elder High School that you can be depended on to complete assignments and do what is best for your students. Thank you, Mr. Bingham, for your dedication to your position as an educator in our district. You're making a difference in your students' lives, and we appreciate you. Congratulations.
Most of you know, but Mr. Bingham, I think, has been the guy who created our aviation program. Is that, you started it for us, didn't you?
I did, but it wasn't without not before. So about 5 years ago, we started. We've had a couple hundred students go through our program now, and anyway, it started actually not by me. It was something that was instigated, I think, by you. So I just like to
Brian.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's right. Thank you. Yeah, I like that.
It's been great. So thank you.
Awesome job.
I just wanted to say that when I found out about this, I found Spencer, who was a student, and so excited. So, like, have a lot better impact on the lives of our students than some of the parents being. So, thank you so very much.
Can I just chime in? You're looking at a very well diversified man. He's run our tractor restoration program at the high school, which is ranked nationally, and he's received some top awards. And then to go to aviation, to welding, to visibility FFA students on their livestock projects. Jason's he's awesome, and just he does a lot of things for that high school. Yeah.
Recognition and thank you. This is a thank you for Jackie, who is our student services director at the Stand Up, please, Jackie.
We are.
Jackie, we want to thank you for the time and effort that you put into collecting those works of art for students in the district and displaying them so beautifully in the district office. You worked hard to ensure that the Box Elder School District office beautifully represents our district and showcases the diverse talents of our students and employees. The pieces you have collected and displayed teach us about each artist, and we appreciate that you have found a way to recognize these artists who so often don't get the recognition. Thank you for finding yet another way to foster mental and emotional well-being in our district. We appreciate you and recognize the outstanding and professional that you are. Thanks so much.
Sorry, I'm just have to chime in. But Jackie came into our district 2 years ago now, so she began to get third.
Like they're
Okay, and as you recall, when I came here, I had just really learned a lot from Carbon and Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACEs. And together with the other development members, the Box Elder leadership team members, we wanted to really have our teachers, our cooks, and our bus drivers, our janitors, everybody know about ACEs and to be able to know what they can do to help children who have ACEs. Most of us in this room probably have at least one, and some of us have as many as 4 to 10. If you have 4, then you're in a position where you possibly need some extra help. And so Jackie came along just the right time with her training and everything she's learned. She's just done a great job with that side of our school district. And as you saw in our presentation earlier, Jackie's part of that whole process. And I'm just really proud, that I've been part of this, that we're helping all of our teachers understand and know what we can do best to help kids. And Jackie's really taking that and really ran with it and gone well beyond what I envisioned. So it's been really kind of it's almost like a proud papa moment. I don't think I'm quite old enough to be your dad, but it's still a proud papa moment.
I just want to say I really appreciated the artwork, and I don't know, I'll just speak for myself, that when you have a very calming presence, so what you do carries over into who you are. And so I appreciate any time that you've presented things and done things. It is a very needed and helps me because I'm not a calm person. So thank you for trying to bring me down a notch. All right, we're to the time where we will take a motion to approve the agenda. So we have a motion by Nancy Kennedy and a second by Brian Smith. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And it looks like we do not have any public comment at this time, so let us move on to our action items. So the first one is the approval of the ESSER 3 grants. We're going to turn time over to Superintendent to walk us through that.
Okay, I would assume that a lot of the people in the room know that we've had grants from the federal government for the last year and a half to help us with the pandemic and to help us with lost learning. And the most recent grant is called the ESSER 3 grant. It's actually the ARP, American Recovery Plan, and the ESSER, ESSER, stands for Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Fund. I had to practice that for quite a while because we start saying ESSER so much that you forget what it actually stands for. Our school district just received $7.3 million, and we have to use it based on the guidelines given to us by the federal government and approved by our legislature, our local Utah State legislature. And we have to turn that in by September 17th. And one of many of the things that we have to do is get stakeholder input. So we've started with principals, we worked with our directors, and our principals talked to teachers. We then held a meeting probably 10 days ago, was it either 2 weeks ago maybe? And we had parents, we had 2 board members, we had teachers there, directors, and we used the guidelines. And I'll just show you quick, or I guess you've got to keep that. Which one is the guidelines? Probably, I think it's out. You can't see them very well, but the top paragraph says you have to take 20% right off the top of the money allotted to you and use it for what's called lost learning. And of course, with students being in soft closure over a year ago when we got out of school in March, and there was kids online, we had teachers trying their best to learn how to use Canvas on the fly. and try to help kids. And for that month, in March, April, and May, we did have some lost learning. And then last year, with masks and some of the things that went along with that, we had a lot of students that went online, and there was a hindrance of learning just with the masks and all the things that entailed. And so we've had to do a lot of research and a lot of assessment to try to find out what things students may not have learned. And we will be able to use this money once we've figured that all out. This money can only be used after ESSER II funds are used. And I believe, Rod, in total with what the county gave us, we had, remind me again how much that was. Was that about?
We had 3.3 came from the federal government, and the county gave us a little over 600,000.
So 3.5 million roughly?
So, well, almost 3.9.
3.9. And it seems like a tremendous amount of money, which it is, but we do have a $130 million budget. And by the time we pay teachers extra, it does get used up for very good causes. For instance, this summer, we had one of the most successful elementary summer school programs that we think we've ever had. And we used some, we were able to use that ESSER II money to hire a company come in to help us be more specific on what we were after. The old, I think you, my age, remember the old summer school movies, and they always made fun of high school just going, hanging out with the dudes. That's not summer school anymore. They are very specific and very exact on what they try to teach. And so that's one of the things that we did. So with that in mind, if he goes down, it's too small, but there are a variety of bullets up there underneath that 20%. And I don't know how big you can get, but one of the things that they talk about, and this is, the board's all heard this, but one of the things is they wanted to be able to use these funds, a little bit of an infrastructure if you wanted to, and use them for HVAC. And so if you're a person that's been in Box Elder School District for a long time, you know that with the way things seem to have gotten hotter, we have some real problems in some of our schools with incredibly high temperatures. So we're going to take 5.3 million of that money, and we're hopeful that the board will approve that and put that into air conditioning in our 2 high schools completely. We're going to put air conditioning in our 2 intermediate schools. And the reason we brought those 4 schools up first is because the 2 high schools were remodeled, rebuilt just 10, 12 years ago. Our intermediate schools are 20 years old, I believe, but they seem more like they're brand new. And we feel like we can put, the real system into it. With our middle schools, already Box Elder Middle School has AC most of the way through it. Bear River Middle School does not. But Bear River Middle School, just for the information of the crowd and reminder of the board, we have a committee of the board called the Long-Term Capital Outlay Committee. And we have a plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, 15-year plan, like most school districts do. And in our plan, we have a plan that in about 7 or 8 years, when our bond is paid off, that helped us build our 2 high schools, rebuild, remodel. When that's paid off, we have a plan to either rebuild, remodel, or totally build new 2 middle schools, both in Bear River and at Box Elder. And at the time, we'll have to, determine, which is the best way to go. And so the reason I tell you that right now is because we don't see putting a system in Bear River Middle School as the most effective thing to do that we will turn around, possibly get it out or even build new in 7 or 8 years. So Corey, back in the corner here, did some work with some of the people we work with, EWA, and they found a method where you can put window units in, and it's not the most efficient way to go. There are a lot of problems with electricity draw in old buildings. And so any outside room, they can put window units in to at least help knock the temperature down. I'm not going to say it's going to really make it chilly in there, but it's certainly going to help. And then on the inside rooms, they have what they put on the ceiling, what they call mini split units, where they like set it on a weight bearing wall and then split and take care of two buildings, each unit. Is that correct for you? 2 rooms, I'm sorry, thank you. And so we feel like that can be done for somewhere in the 150 range, somewhere in that range. And so we're going to, that $5.3 million, we should have our 6 through 12th graders taken care of. With, yes.
Can you see the guys here? They are so excited. It's so much fun. They're like, yes. We're not gonna die the first 2 weeks of school.
And the last couple of weeks of May, so.
Obviously, our audience, the target audience.
That's awesome. And, you know, with this, we think that we're going to, just so the elementaries, we're going to look at what it takes, you know, because we have for instance, Fielding and Garland are 2 fairly new elementaries, and they probably have the systems in place to go with the system. Chillers, there's more control. It air conditions big spaces where these window units and the mini splits, probably in the lunch rooms. And if they have gyms, they probably won't be AC. It'll just be the individual rooms. So in these newer buildings, Garland, Fielding, 3 Mile Creek, Discovery, they look more like a system and they cost more money. They're more efficient, and of course, up front. But the other buildings like McKinley, North Park, Century, Lakeview are things that we are going to consider looking at the same way that we're doing the Bear River Middle School. And, you know, just give it an idea. And we've really never before had a chance to really have a good start like this. And so we're thinking about going forward. I will just say one thing on speculation. Please make sure this is speculation. There is talk about another stimulus bill, federal level, and we presume that might, or we assume, presumption might be a little too strong. We assume that there might be an ESSER 4. And that one is even more talk about infrastructure. And with that, we might very well possibly be able to take care of the rest of our needs while still meeting all of the other needs that we have. So Keith, if you would mind clicking up that budget, we'll be able to just run by. I put it, Carrie put together this, and we've really simplified it. Underneath each one of these different ones, it's a plethora of information. But for the sake of the board, I just felt like it'd be important we be able to break it down so that you can kind of see what we're talking about. So at the top, once again, this has to be spent by the fall of 2024. Correct? And so we're able, and we're not going to have our ESSER 2 funds spent until December of this year. We've got it arranged. So once January 1 hits, we're going to be able to start using these funds. And so the very first line item up there is elementary and summer school. And we'll be able to use it for the summer of 22, the summer of 23, and the summer of 24. And so that 300,000 is the work they've done and how much it's going to cost for the program, how much it's going to cost for teachers, how much it's going to cost for materials. And roughly, they figure it's about $100,000 a year. This last year wasn't that much, but we expended some money. So we're excited to be able to present that because we really learned a lot this year. It had a two-edged advantage in that were there 18 teachers?
Yes.
And we felt like those teachers got the training from this particular vendor, and many of those were younger teachers. Sadly enough, you know the toll that last year took on a lot of teachers. A lot of our veteran teachers, even though we paid them, we thought we paid them quite well, just they needed the summer. But a lot of our younger teachers were excited about doing this, and so they took advantage of it. But they received some incredible training. They received great feedback from the people who provided the training, came and gave feedback while they were actually teaching. Carrie, and we had a principal at this end. That was Megan Bushnell, was the principal of the south end. And then Heidi Jo West, who was actually the principal of Mountain View, went up to the north end. Was that held at McKinley? And the south end was that at Discovery. And so they were able to, we really feel like those teachers probably got a year's worth of experience during that time. The next one is secondary summer school. And 3 years for that, that's a little bit different situation. But that's what Gary felt like it would take, probably about 50 grand a year to be able to pull off summer school for the kids to get recovery classes. We have last year, you may recall that we started out with our BESD online that was actually created during the summer last year. We have roughly 1,000 students in our BESD online. This year, we've pulled back and we're not providing elementary online, but we're just providing from 9th grade up. And so we're using the same, I guess, base of the whole thing, ingenuity, as what we're doing to use that online. And that requires kids get online. It requires tutors. It requires people for them to call and give, to know. It requires the testing coordinators to be able to do the testing. And so we have one on the north, we have one on the south. And so that's 3 years worth of what that's going to take. Then next on line 12, you'll see in last year, Mrs. Kent's here, and that's nice that she's here. We actually were fortunate to get an intern from Utah State that was a licensed clinical social worker. And they were doing their intern hours. In order to become a licensed clinical social worker, you have to have, I believe I've heard 2,000 hours of counseling beyond getting your degree. And so we had this intern last year, and Jamie said it was just absolutely invaluable. And so with all of the information we had with the pandemic and all of the knowledge we know about students having emotional issues, we've decided to use this money and hire an LCSW at Fox Elder High School and one at Bear River High School. And we think that's going to cost us roughly $80,000 to $90,000 a year. Now, in an email I sent to you, we're well aware that that could set us up for the cliff in the school year of 24 and 25. But we feel like we're going to do a lot of work. There are grants constantly coming, and we think we can possibly get a grant that might help us. Yes.
I just have a question. Is it going to be hard to find two licensed clinical social workers? That's my, I mean, I want to do this. I'm just wondering how we're going to recruit them.
Well, we actually,
We just hired two.
you have to, you don't have to already. do you?
We just hired two with a grant that we got for this year, and we had many candidates.
Oh, you did
And in
that.
fact, a couple of our school counselors in elementary school are licensed clinical social workers.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we worried about that, but it seems like, I think the colleges know what's going on, and they're really upping the ante and making sure that the kids are getting directed in mental health areas versus, some of the other health services that they've done. So that's something I'm very excited about. Just another FYI. Our school counselors, except for the two that she mentioned, they have their degrees in guidance counseling, school guidance. And that is basically mostly directed at helping students in their career guidance and picking the right classes and getting them lined up to go to college, all ready to go or go into the field that they want to go into out of high school. They have certain limitations on what they're allowed to do. It's called responsive services. And they're only allowed to do up to X. And if a kid comes to them and tells them they're really having some serious problems, they can only talk to them a certain degree before they have to, I hate to say this term, but pass them on to the Bear River Health Department or someone else. A licensed clinical social worker is somebody who has the degree, get right down to the nitty gritty and talk to kids about those hard things and be able to work with them. And Jamie, I believe, would you concur that last year this person that you had was busy and seemed like we really wanted to have the intern again, but it just didn't.
We have more students that want us to see them than they have room for.
So we think, and if it's one of those things, we feel like we could maybe expand it to the middle schools, but we're excited about the fact that we have our counseling program. We're trying our best to take care of a lot of those problems in their primary years and be able to help them there so that they don't end up in the middle school and high school with some of these issues. So, yes.
Just a jog, but in memory. Aren't we supposed to have like a peer student to help kids get into college? That was some legislation that was passed a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Do we have those in place, and can they help take any of the pressure off our counselors?
Jamie, have you been involved in that, the college, what do they call it? I hooked you and JJ up last year with that person last spring. Do you know where that's at? Because we are supposed to get one this year. It started a couple of years ago, but do you know where we're at in that?
We have one at our school. I don't know if Bear was able to hire when ours was started.
Because I'm wondering if that will also help take the pressure off
Yeah.
of our counselors, so. they can-
Yeah, so they, yeah, they can just work with seniors and
Always in career plans.
so.
That's money that's provided from the state through, there's legislation that they want to have the kids to have more help and guidance to help them get into, post-secondary high time, post-secondary.
So they actually did a training and took them to all the colleges in Utah, and they went to the each campus. Our person was super excited. But I know they kind of started building out when
Yeah.
smaller districts were kind of on the.
Yeah, Salt Lake, those guys already have them.
I think they got them last year, and I think the pandemic slowed it down because it was a bill that passed two years ago, probably, and not 3.
Hey, one thing, if everybody speak in your microphone, because the people.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, that's okay. I forget all the time, but just so people online, they said if we speak in our microphones, they can hear us better. So that's why they're a little bit closer. Sorry, I should mention that at the beginning.
Okay, and so we're very excited about these, and we just think they're going to provide a service that's really needed. The next one is an organization called Safe and Civil Schools. And what it is, last year, we actually purchased some help from them, and at every one of our principals meeting, we had 1 hour with the lady, and I'm not a big fan of learning via Zoom. But this lady really did a nice job, and so we're going to be able to expand that and get it to our teachers. And it's about the things that Jackie does. It's about equity. It's about making sure that we have a level playing field. And if the field needs to be tilted a little bit to help kids in certain areas, it needs to get tilted. And so this will help our students, with some of the things that are going on right now with some of the gender equity type things that they're talking about, some of the race type things that are going on and some of those things. And so Safe and Civil Schools is a really good, solid program. It's not radical by any stretch, so it'd be something that I'm really excited about. We've already built a relationship with, how's that, build a relationship? I can't remember her name now.
Trisha Scott.
Tricia. She was one of the best Zoom presenters I've ever seen. She somehow kept us all engaged quite well. Special education has special needs, through the pandemic, and our special ed director, Catherine Allen, was able to come up with some ideas of some things she could do to help with lost learning. Special education is really specific on lost learning. That's a lot of times why students end up in special education, because at some point they missed out on some problems, or it's because of some learning disabilities that they have. So that's what she requested. Then, as I mentioned, start off with the big items up there. Box Elder High School. This is, once again, just a good estimation, but it was a mechanical engineer. And they looked at these schools and gave us these estimations. Box Elder High, 1.15, Bear River High, 2 million. Harris and Young both. And, even though Young has that extra wing, correct, Corey?
Right.
We figured, do they have?
It's the same HVAC system. It's the same mechanical rooms.
So it pushes it forward. And then I did put 200,000 Bear River Middle School. Corey thought that it might be closer to 100,000, but this budget is one of those things that, as you evaluate it, you can always go back and readjust it and look at things. So we'll be able to do that. We just spent the last 2 weeks readjusting ESSER 2 to try to get where we need to. Then the last item on there is technology and Chromebooks. We used a lot of ESSER 2 money to buy a ton of Chromebooks and Chromebook core parts. And with the technology, there are things like headphones and mice and cases. That's what I'm looking for. Cases, because when kids take them home, Chromebooks are small enough, they fly around pretty good. It was funny, Robert had like 3 or 4 different cases, and he walked in and he opened them up, and then he just pushed it off the side of the table. And Carrie just about swallowed her face. It just shocked her so bad, and it took the blunt really well, and everything went on. And so they are very important. The kids are going to take them home
And just today.
So we got a new case provider in yesterday. We put it on a Chromebook. It's a brand new Chromebook, but it came shipped damaged. Okay, but not. So we started knocking it off the table, just like kids are going to.
accidentally.
5th time. it split and started peeling the monitor cover. So we snapped it back together, but yeah, that one's not in the running anymore.
That's eliminated, okay. So, you know, that, we've been able to, but by the time we get through this, we will be a one-to-one school district. So every student will be able to have a Chromebook whenever they need. You know, every class will have a Chromebook card, and cases are for, you know, if a teacher has some special assignment that they want to send the kids home to be able to do, if a kid is homebound, a variety of reasons to, you know, to have cases for them to take them home. Are there other ideas I'm missing out on there, Robert? Apparently not.
I think you're hitting all of them. The only thing that ran through my mind is we have 1,344 Chromebooks that are expired right now. What that means is we buy a license from Google to manage them, and that license is expired. So we can't manage them in the district anymore, even though they're still good Chromebooks. We have to do something with them. So I'm looking at the opportunity to get them out in the community and get them in the hands of kids to use at home, releasing them from the district and making them their own device with no ties to the district anymore.
So how long does the Chromebook last? How long do we need?
So now this is, I'm not the director anymore, putting my dad hat on. I have 2 Chromebooks that my boys use for homework currently that were purchased in 2012. So what does that make them, 9 years old? So there does come a time that OS stops updating, but it still keeps working. So, yeah. So it's hard to say. I can't tell you.
Put your director hat on that.
Okay? Back on.
So when you say that the Google license, how long does that? So is that like a 5-year thing where they manage
It is a solid 5 years. They told us, hey, we're lengthening this to 6 years. And what we've started to notice is that what they've done is they've started to align all of the expiration dates. Instead of, you know, we had some going in May, some in September. They are now all starting to expire in June. So we're thinking, you know, that, oh, they really just rounded that up. It's 5.5 to 6. So.
We're aware that because of these two, ESSER2 and ESSER3, we're buying a large amount of Chromebooks. So that's going to very possibly put us in a cliff. But already Robert has worked with Ron, and he's starting to set aside some money so that we'll be able to just have a nice, smooth transition, that we'll be able to have a 6-year plan on how to replace those.
In 2026, we have 9,900 and something, I can't remember, almost 10,000 Chromebooks that will expire. So we're trying to stagger that. And this ESSER3 funds are going to help us to do that staggering, to be able to exceed that. Rod says, hey, don't worry, that's no problem.
I don't think he said it quite like that.
I don't think I was that Calvin.
So I have another question. I'm sorry to keep
No
asking.
problem.
But so many of our schools, with their trust lands funds, buy Chromebooks. So is that going to free up some of the trust lands money to do other things?
In the last couple of years, we've really tried to
Very,
get away from that. That used to be the big use, but now we're using most of the trust lands, I think, for
Very few of them actually ever in your plan to do guys ever do that.
the last couple of years.
And really the reason why is because back when I was a principal, I could save up. For me, and the scary not being a Title I school, that was the only budget I really had. So you would have to save up a couple of years to get a lab. So there used to be a place in school, I'm sure where you could put a reason I had this carryover budget and you felt like saving that for a blank and I could say why. Well, that rule got changed. It has to be generational. They want you to spend the money on the generation. You really can't do that anymore. I mean, that's so really very few have now gone away from that. It's now like, are we in the Chromebooks because they're such a part of the curriculum now? You can see our math adoption and a good portion of that in elementary is on a notebook. So it really is this kind of be part of our next work adoption process. Okay, now.
Okay, and that 1 million of technology Chromebooks, that isn't gonna be spent, the next 6 months, but it's gonna be spent, dollars 3 years and be able to help stuff. So with that, I'm not gonna try to lie and tell you that adds up to $7,305,205.10. But it's very close. And luckily, Carrie, someday we probably ought to show you a Utah grant. And Carrie took the responsibility on this one, and you do have to get down to the 10 cents. And so when we do that, we'll be a little bit more specific. And she has a much broader budget already of this right now, but then in time comes where you have to match it up. It's really added a lot of work for Rod's department, and the ladies up there have really done a great job. Rod's been really good to work with. They've had to put in a lot of extra time to pull this off. Just all the extra payrolls they've had to do, just all the different things they've, the tracking of everything. When we had people out for quarantine, to pay them from this versus, if they were quarantined because of COVID versus, they were having an operation, just the different levels of things. So it's really caused a lot of work. I mean, it sounds funny, but it's hard work to find a way to spend this much money on something that's really effective to help students. It seems bizarre to say that, but it really is kind of a unique experience after you've been in education for as long as we all have, and all of a sudden people are giving you money on things that you've known you've wanted to use all the time. So it's really pretty neat. And with that, I guess I would turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the ESSER 3 grant as it has been presented.
Second. So I have a motion by Wade Hyde and a second by Karen Cronin to approve the ESSER 3 grant has been presented. Are there any other questions or discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion passes. We will look forward to seeing that get done. And thank you for all the work. I know that's a lot. A lot, and you have to be specific and you have to be exact and you have to be detailed. So we appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to our information items. Our first one is our construction report from Corey Thompson.
Is there a microphone? Maybe use.
Can you get one?
Let me just use this end one right here.
Yeah, if you feel it.
I'll borrow this phone. Okay. Just make it, yeah, I can enlarge that.
I'm going to be more effective today by using mine.
Okay. So, with the approval of that money, as soon as the ESSER 2 is done, sometime in January, we'll get the ball rolling on the air conditioning. There is quite a bit of behind the scenes work that has to happen to that first with mechanical engineer. Sooner I can get working on that, the better, because of the lead times on anything construction. So the sooner we get going on that, the better we'll get working on that. So Golden Spike Elementary, its timeline hasn't really changed much. And the past couple of months, we felt working with Hogan Construction, we felt we're about 2.5 months behind the schedule that they had initially had, which was the end of May, beginning of June next summer. So that puts us somewhere about the middle to the beginning of August. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. To this point, since they established that, we haven't lost additional time, but we haven't gained it back either. Excuse me. The reason being, materials are trickling in. They are continuing to get them, not as quickly as they hoped, and they're looking for other options as long as it still meets the specification. One of the things they're finding is also a shortage on labor. It's difficult to get the full crews for the different trades.
Corey, can I?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
apologize. You guys, Golden Spike is going to be the most amazing elementary school you have ever seen. We went up on the second floor and Carrie, we're hanging out the window going, the views are incredible. The classrooms have massive windows. There's going to be light and air and it's amazing. We're going to have parents that are jumping, teachers are going to be dancing in the halls. This is going to be a spectacular school. It's going to be so cool.
So there was the second PSA of the night. So it is, the views are, they're great. They really are. Looking out at the media center upstairs, it really is nice. Any other questions on Golden Spike Elementary?
No other question, but we do need to talk about a time when the board can visit it, because like, you did do a tour on Friday, but I know lots of us weren't able to go, so I know that everybody's interested in seeing what that's like. We will definitely need to work with you and find a time where we can go, because I think we're all excited to see it firsthand what's happening.
And that was a last minute tour, and the reason that I did that is because I needed my maintenance crew to get in before they start hanging sheetrock so they can see behind the walls. And we also have our finance department needs to start looking at furniture orders. And so it's a good time to get them in there, kind of visualizing the space. And then I thought, oh, as long as we've got this big group, let's add to it. But really, anytime that works out for you as a school board, let me know and we can get that set up.
So the nutrition gals were there measuring, tables are going, it's just exciting.
Great questions. I tried to get a 2x4 about 8 months ago and it was about $8 and I've heard they're back down to $2.50. And are you seeing things coming back down or what are you seeing?
So I was at Home Depot on Monday getting stuff for my house and prices seem more reasonable than they have been. As far as Golden Spike Elementary, there's not a whole lot of wood. There's not really wood framing in there. It's metal studs. Those have been in short supply. They have looked at other options that would still meet specifications. But to this point, they've been able to get the materials that they need to continue working. Not as quickly as they wanted, but the materials are trickling in. And as of yet, everybody knock on wood real quick, we haven't been hit with the contractor coming and saying, you know, the price has skyrocketed, so we've got to add 15% to the cost. They haven't done that. But as I mentioned in previous board meetings, we got really lucky that we slid this in just before everything went even crazier. So. Yeah, so let me know when the board wants to go on a walkthrough of Golden Spike Elementary. So we have other summer projects going on, some major ones. And I've shown you those on a spreadsheet the past couple of board meetings. So it's been the same issues with anybody you talk to in construction. Timelines are pushed back, materials are hard to get, labor is hard to find. And so it has been a difficult situation this summer with getting some of our summer projects done. But in the August of the projects that I have listed there in these slides, in the August board meeting when I reported, we had 10 projects complete. Tonight, we have 18 projects complete. So we are moving forward with those, and it does give if you scroll through, Mr. Meekum, it does give, and you should see this on your board packets, it does give a spreadsheet of the different projects, and it doesn't show up very well on the projector, but the complete is highlighted. So if you look at the spreadsheet, and this isn't everything going on in the district. We always have stuff going on, but we still have, if you look through the spreadsheet, we still have the Box Elder High School. This is a donation, a video board for the football stadium. That one is in the beginning of the workings. Bear River High School turf. I just got the latest update on that. Everybody be surprised. It sounds like, so it will not be completed before the end of the month, but it sounds like enough of it will be complete that the installer is comfortable saying that they might, cross your fingers, be able to play a game on the 17th. Is that what it is? So homecoming. So, and there's much rejoicing in the land. So
You're more pessimistic than I hear, but you're probably being safe.
I don't want to come back and bite me on next board meeting.
You promised, that's what.
I said the end of September is what the installer said. So if we get it 2 weeks ahead of time, then that'll be a great celebration for them. But as far as the midfield logo of the Bears head and the end zone lettering, that will not have arrived. So those are the pieces that will need to be installed later on. So, and that's turf. And then the language arts building of Bear River High School. We need to add glycol to that system. That's a type of antifreeze so that the heating system does not freeze up in the winter. That's in the works, and they can install that at any time without disrupting school. And then we have the locker room upgrades at Bear River High School. One of those locker rooms is done. We took some, so we have chair and drill at Bear River High School. There were a couple of other rooms there that chair and drill were storing costumes in. We've relocated those and we've turned those into another locker room, and it looks fantastic. It has wardrobe style lockers. This is girls' locker room for girls' sports. And then we have a team room that did not have lockers that we are converting that into a full-on locker room. Those lockers are metal type sports lockers, but because they're metal, they're on back order, and we're thinking sometime in October is the hope for that. We looked down Box Elder Middle School. We need to do some stuff inside that building for stairs in the hallway. The way things were going with the schedule, we said we need to delay that to next summer because it would be too disruptive to try to do it during the school year. We have Bear River Middle School as far as re-roofing it. That is all but buttoned up. And then skylights there were, I think, about 60 skylights we had replaced. We did those in-house with my crew. I think last week there were about 5 or so that he was still working. Secured entrances for the 2 intermediate schools. We have the hardware for the doors, and IT has their end of that. It's just the install piece right now, so we're working on them. Then we move down to Willard Elementary. We need to replace those boilers, but because of schedule backups in this summer, I didn't want to risk it. And in November, with still trying to finish up the boilers, it wasn't worth that gamble. So we're going to delay that till spring of 22. Discovery, the additional parking, that should be, the asphalt should be laid tomorrow. That was behind schedule too. North Park, they are just finishing out the landscaping part of that parking lot addition in McKinley. They're replacing the boilers in there. There were some modifications that they had to do to fit the new coils into the ductwork. Park Valley, that one is in the process. That one got backed up too, as far as the greenhouse. And then with Grouse Creek, that one we're looking at for next summer. That was the plan the whole time. And then we have some other things going on there as far as roofing and South Transportation. So, And then the next two slides have those updates and a more synopsis than what I just.
Thanks, Corey.
An example of the pressure that Corey goes through, probably 2 weeks ago, Jamie Kent was on him something terrible because they had two portables that weren't quite ready to go, and she was panicking because she didn't have a place for the kids to go. So she got a hold of me and I got a hold of Corey, and he got his guys to take care of it. And I said to Jamie Kent, well, obviously the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, this young man,
Don't say that.
he had something that I'm gonna use now all the time. I said the squeaky wheel gets the grease. He gets, yeah, but if that squeaky wheel keeps squeaking, it gets replaced. I thought that was outstanding. So, very wise there.
I don't typically say that. So,
I do though. He wasn't here to shut me down.
Well, that's the board member. Yes, go ahead, Ryan.
Corey, I was at the tennis match last week at Monticello. They're an awesome course. They're great. Do you know how hard it would be to put some water in there? They don't have water, better water models. Right? Would that be?
So, yes, it's possible. When we were building those courts, we did discuss bringing a line down, and they call it a bubbler. It would just, like, you can take a concrete culvert and tip it upside down, fill it full of gravel, and you've seen some of those. I can certainly check on that again. When we were doing that, I honestly don't remember what the cost was off the top of my head, but that is quite a stretch to bring the water line in the restrooms. And remember, the reason the restrooms are where they are, it's because we had to get the right elevation to tie into the sewer line. If we would have put the restrooms down by the tennis courts themselves, we would have had to get a sewer pump or it's actually a sewer pump to pump the sewer from the restrooms up to the sewer line. And those are about $250,000 just for that pump. And then we have to maintain it. So we felt like it was more economical to put it up there. But I can certainly look at that and find out what the cost.
And maybe just need to have the coaches make sure that they're bringing water. That was an issue.
Yeah, and there is exterior taps up there at the restrooms. I'm almost positive. It's probably not too far. Yeah. Yeah.
So in years past, some of the parents, I don't know, some of the parents would take each week and bring them a 5-gallon water things. So I think that might cost a good solution.
Right?
Yes.
I just appreciate, I know I sent an email or a question to the superintendent, which went to you, and you were so fast to answer me. And I look at this list every month and think, I don't know how you get to it all and manage it all like you do, and still get back to questions like I asked. So thank you. I appreciate all you do.
And thank you. I appreciate your support. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
we're excited.
Could I interrupt just for 1 second? But there's a group here, and I would have recommended recognizing him sooner, but I couldn't remember this one gentleman's name.
Oh.
And it's Dave Roberts.
Yeah.
And I know Dave, but the name slipped me. And so Dave, you want to tell us who your group is and what is going on here today?
Yeah, we're affiliated with Perry First Ward out of Perry, and we're just working on one of our 4 goals that's associated with the young men, and that's the intellectual part. So we figured we'd come and learn a little bit more about what the school board does and what you guys vote on and what matters are important to you at this time.
Thanks. I will also say that Dave is a member of Murray School District. Are you the transportation director?
Support service director.
Support services director. He lives in Perry, so we don't know why he's going south, but you know.
These guys are actually enjoying themselves, so evidently you guys are doing something.
What grade did you guys?
9.
We're all 9. He's an 8.
So you can get some leader conditioning.
That's what I told him.
Thank you for being here. I think that's wonderful. So spread the word, they're fun. And next time too. Okay. Our next item on our agenda is let's see, trauma training, yes, from Jackie.
Do you want me to do that? You're fine. Thank you, and thank you for that wonderful vote of confidence earlier. I was totally surprised. Nobody told me. So thank you. And then he said it doesn't matter if I don't talk into the.
Just talk loud. Use your teacher voice
My goodness.
from the diaphragm.
Well, then I have to like stand like this. All right. Fine.
There you go.
Okay, so this is awkward, but here I am. So I'm very excited to share some information with you that superintendent thought would be important for you to know. So. Where's he? And how did that happen? Oh, Carrie did it. I'm like, wow, you're not even in here and it happened. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is our positive behavior plan. That's a new statute by the state of Utah, and you're getting a copy of that statute right now. And basically what that statute is meant to do is to address the causes, and I put that in capitals because the causes of student use of tobacco, alcohol, electronic cigarette products, and other controlled substances through promoting positive behaviors. That's the end goal. But what's so exciting about this is that it really encompasses a lot of what we're doing right now, because it's about mindfulness. It's about being trauma responsive. It takes all that into consideration. So I'm not going to necessarily go over the actual statute. You each have a copy of it, but I am going to go over the timeline. The timeline has all of that stuff that's in the statute in it. What basically needs to happen is we need to have each school during this year establish a team, an intervention team. And with that intervention team, they are going to have a specialist, which will be the principal. And they are going to meet to discuss student needs. That's the first part. From October to November, they need to receive stakeholder input. So we'll create a template and share with them so they can send that out to stakeholders. We'll use also existing data like the Sharps data, the Panorama data, that give us the emotional learning needs of our district. And I have that broken down from last year. And we're doing our first Panorama survey this starting Monday, which is a social emotional data gathering tool. We also have our needs assessment that we have completed for this year. And so we will use all those things, and the principals will have the access to those. The next thing we're going to do is they are going to take that data, identify the school culture and climate issues that they need to address. And from that, they will establish trauma-informed and trauma-sensitive practices, ongoing PD. We do that already. We are so already ahead of the game. I'm excited about the statute because really what it is it's taking all the good that we're doing and putting it into a form and giving it to the state of Utah. So we're already doing it. It's just this is the formal way to do it. So it's very exciting. And in March, we want to have, by March, have the principals and the schools identify what they need to do. Things like increasing skills, building connections, expanding knowledge of child development, and realistic expectations, which is huge. Sometimes we forget what a kindergartner can do or what a seventh grader can do. We expect adult behavior, and they're not quite there yet. Also, include evidence-based programs that will build skills like resistance skills and mindfulness and strategies to build friendships. And these are all found in the statute. These are recommendations that they have given. And then in May, by the end of May, they will turn those plans into me, and I will look through them, make sure that they fit into the PBS statute, and then we will send them to you for review, because as a school board, you need to approve it and then send that approval on to the Utah State Board of Education. So that is your role in this, but it will come in June at your board meeting. You'll have that information already, and then you can vote on it and or make suggestions before if there's things that you feel need to be tweaked. Each school is doing a different one because each school is unique. and have unique needs. So that is our PBS timeline. Does anyone have any questions about this statute and what our response to it is and what we're going to be doing this year? Okay, perfect. You'll hear more about it as we go along through the year and in May.
So I feel sorry for our poor principals. I mean, we are putting so much, and part of this is legislature and the state. Are they getting the help they need to put this together? Because we are asking them to do so much.
Absolutely. We've already thought of that. You are very right. They do have a big load on their plate. So what we are doing is with this timeline, and I'm creating templates that I will give them and they will just fill it in. So it'll be easy. And like I said, a lot of this stuff that's happening already fits right into the statute. So it's just plugging in those needs and those numbers, looking at the data, but I will help facilitate that. And we'll get that going. We have our school counselors that can also help. So we've got that. We're just hoping not to put more on them. So I hear you. We just need to let the legislature know. But yeah, but yes, we plan on making it as easy and as clean as possible. Yes, yes. Yes.
So that we're doing a lot of this, so hopefully it's not a lot of extra words.
No, in fact, I'm going to show you a little bit of what we're doing already, as part of what I'm talking to you about, just because we are already doing it. All right. Thank you, Keith. So one of the first things I'm going to show you is our website, BESDwellbeing.org. If you could click on that, Keith, I think it will take you to it if it works as it should. So I'm just going to show you this main page for sake of time. But if you notice right here on the bar at the top, keep going down, sorry, that bar. We have that SOS Connect with a counselor. That takes you to a screen that allows you to connect immediately with a counselor from Save UT. And that can be for anything. It's not just for suicide. Bye, guys. It's for people who need to talk because they're anxious or something's happened. But immediately you get access to a counselor.
Jackie, can you back up just a bit? Even though you've had a live link, you can get to this on our district webpage.
Absolutely. Very, very quickly. Yeah. If you go, okay. Oh,
So-
yeah, it's kind of having a hard day today.
You have to be out of our network to get to our webpage right now.
Oh, it's not working. So if you just go.
It's open out, it's open on the outside, it's not open on the inside, sorry.
Yeah, it's.
We
not
got a problem
working. I
today.
tried it earlier, but you can access it under the employee tab. You can go to BESD Wellbeing. You can get to it under student services. You can get to it on a bunch of different ways. We're trying to make it accessible.
After you see what Jackie has to share tonight, I would recommend you do it.
I hope you do.
And there's a lot of great things on there. I get on through my own writing.
So if you just go down a little bit more, Keith, I'll go across that home bar that we had up. You notice contact, that's just me. We don't need to go there. And then there's a student page, a parent and community page, and an employee page. But right now we're just going to stay on this home page. So this is just a welcome what is going on in what mental health is. And then if you'll scroll down a little bit more, Dr. David Schramm, because of a grant we got, he was able to make videos for us. And he gave us access to his Dragonfly videos, but he made 9 videos specific to our school district. And those are all found on the employee webpage, the parent community webpage, so parents can access, and it's for drug and alcohol and suicide prevention.
Shall we give him a PSA for next week?
Oh, next week, he is presenting on the 15th. I think it's Wednesday or Thursday.
I thought it was Thursday, but
It's Thursday probably, and it's in Tremont I thought it was at the fair.
No, well, yeah, I don't know where it is. I thought it was there.
I thought it was at the fairgrounds.
That's suicide.
Yeah, and he's going to address anxiety. That's his big topic.
And we're going to be able to leadership. Awesome.
Well, anyway, it should be good. So if you'll scroll down a little bit more, please, Mr. Meekin.
I do have 16th.
16th, Thursday. Right here, there is access to the social emotional learning is the curriculum we are currently using in K-2, and it explains it really deeply what's going on. There was a little bit of buzz earlier on Facebook because of a teacher in Granite. I don't know if any of you heard about that. So we've addressed those concerns in this and given access to the curriculum and the scope and sequence if there's any problems. In the middle is resources for families. And then on the end is a well-being in you. And that has a lot of tools for mindfulness or for kindness or anything that will help you to be calm. And so, and it really does work and it's wonderful. So if you scroll down a little bit more, there's just the app, about getting the app. And then there's just some more stuff at the bottom. We have suicide rates. We have a September calendar that gives you some good vibe things to do. So if you scroll down a little bit more, Keith, it just gives you some things to do each day to be calm. And then there's one more calendar that links to the greater good down at the bottom underneath that, Keith. And if you click on any of those things, it will take you to different activities and things you can do. So that's just the home page. And that one was, anyway, that's just our homepage. So I encourage you to explore different things, but on the student page, you can access student mindfulness activities that you can do in the classroom. There's free access for 30 days of mindfulness in the classroom. There's a lot of stuff on this website, so I encourage you to look at it.
Yeah, I just, Brian, I look at our phones.
Yeah, the parent community has quite a bit, the employee has quite a bit. The student one we're still working on. We haven't got students to really jump on this and be excited about it. So that's my next goal, is to work with the schools on making that really exciting.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is it linked on the high school website?
No, but we can get it. We need to
Yeah.
work on getting that done
Because I was gonna say that's probably.
yeah, it has some stuff on it, and I'm beefing that up. That's my goal this year as we put that together, is to make that really good. It's gonna be good. So there's a lot of resources on there for you. So Keith, let's go back to the
Right, going back, now,
presentation.
for Dr. Dave Schrader,
Yeah.
he works for Utah State University. He has a Facebook page. He has his, every Tuesday, he comes on with his Tuesday 2-minute. He's just outstanding. So if you want
He's
to get hooked
incredible.
up, he's had a TED Talk.
Yeah.
And that is a big deal. I mean,
Big deal.
they just don't let anybody do it.
If you go under employee for a minute, and if you scroll down to the bottom, go on, that's it. So here are the ones that he gave us, that he created for us, that help teachers and people to understand what they can do. And they're short and they're to the point, and they really are powerful and helpful. So there's a lot, and there's some under parent community. He made some for parents. And so we're just hoping to, yeah. Yeah, all right. Can you go back to the slideshow? I think I just have a couple more minutes. And I just kind of want to go over our trauma training that we're doing this year. I want to give you our numbers. Last year, 97% of our employees were trauma trained. Only 53 were not trauma trained. And that is an incredible number. It's just great. And we're going for that this year. I'd love to hit that. I'd love to hit 98, but we'll see what happens. This year, our training is short and concise and to the point. The whole goal is to get it back into the individual community of the schools, that they will create a community care and connect statement, something that will be a trauma responsive statement that they can give and practice this whole year. The second target is to commit to that statement, and the third is to recognize that ripple effect that they can have on an entire community. So on the next slide, I've just shown you some of the so the school admin, the principals, this was their statement that we are going to focus on this year, is we will listen with empathy to all stakeholders and treat them with kindness. And it's kind of their mantra. That's what they're going to focus on this year. The next one is from our school secretaries. And I was so excited to go into ACYI, and the secretaries all had created these cute little stickers and put them on their computers so they could remember to look up and do those, you know, to listen, to understand, and respond with kindness is the message. The last slide is McKinley. I just wanted to show you a school. And this was their statement that they came up with. You know, at McKinley Elementary, we will know your name, listen with our eyes, ears, and hearts, and respond with kindness. So you can tell each community is a little bit different. So that is what we are doing this year for trauma informed. Some of the things I've shown you, this fits right into the PBS statute, right? There's things that driven, and there's other things that are going on. We have that safe and civil schools. We have our classroom management, discipline in the secondary classroom, our secondaries and camps, classroom management. We're teaching our coaches, and anyway, we have been doing this since I've been here. And so they already have these things established. We have social emotional curriculum. We just need to plug it in and look at our data and make sure we need to fill any holes that we do that. Any other questions?
Jackie talked to me about this, what did you call these statements?
Care and connect.
Care and connect statements, and wondered if the board would like to find a way to come up with a board care and connect statement. And
It might be a good idea.
I don't know the logistics of that, but how you guys want to think of a way to pull that off?
And if you need help and guidance, I can send you my slideshow and you can kind of figure out how to do it. But I think you can just come up with something. It would be a really nice thing to be trauma responsive this year.
Yeah, we can.
Some ideas.
Why don't we do that? I will send out an email I'll create a Google Doc and I'll send out an email to everybody and you can add in and then we can.
We can talk about it next week, because a lot of this.
Yeah. Lots of leadership. So yes, I think that's really.
It's
I love these.
powerful. It's powerful. And there was a school that developed one that said we will greet each student with a smile and by name if possible. And they committed to do that, even if they send a student to the office, which happens to some of our students, that when the student comes back, instead of just either ignoring or telling them to get to work, to smile and give them a thumbs up or welcome them back, which is huge for these kids to know that they are liked and valued despite their actions, which is what we want to go for, right? And that's what we're doing this year. So if you don't have any other questions, I will give you your mic back, and I thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. An analogy, about a week ago that said, if you're like a snow globe, like a shaken up snow globe, and things are just like all the things we're doing, and you just need to settle. Doesn't make anything go away, but it settles a little, because that's how I feel sometimes. We're walking snow globes. And so if we take time to be mindful, and I think this is a huge benefit for our schools. So thank you for putting that together.
I'm not sure who did it, but they made those a year or two ago, and I have one on my desk there. Once in a while, shake it up and go, okay.
I need one. All right, let's move to our monthly financial report. Rod.
Okay, we're just 2 months into the year. You don't really start to see any big anomalies very often this early in the year. You will notice down on page 3 here. We have some from page 2. Purchase services, a lot of that's SO2 contract services. I didn't know would be happening for sure which year they'd be happening in, so I didn't estimate it. I thought we were going to spend most of those in the previous year, but that's spilled over. On down, you'll see the buses. We ordered buses, and I put all of the buses in Fund 10, but I budgeted to split the buses to help us with Fund 10. Charge some to Fund 32, so I haven't made the journal entry to do that yet. That's on page 3. Really, there's nothing else unless you have particular questions. Oh, there is one other. We bought lunch tables. We've talked about that. We bought lunch tables. Go ahead.
It reminded me that the ESSER funds, it worked into this budget, or is that?
Well, obviously, what you approved tonight, I didn't put in the budget price, but I didn't know we knew it was coming, but the previous ESSER funds, I budgeted a lot of them, and I didn't know how to split them between the years. Budgeted a lot of them last year. And we just, the belt team was just figured out how much we have left, and we submitted. I think Michelle said she submitted today for about 500,000 more in ESSER two, and there's still a little over 1 million, I think, left. Isn't that right? 1.2 or something like that. They sat down and looked at what we still yet have to spend. Yeah.
Well, if you can just say it's gonna go into the general fund, do what you want, if you release it.
Yeah.
If you have stipulations and one-time money, it does change how we do.
It's like the superintendent says, it's hard to spend the funds, especially when they're grants and they're pretty specific. It is a lot of work. I do need to compliment my department. We have just been, we've had to track all of the people that are out on COVID. And we've got federal funds for the first part of the year, and that changed. And they've been helping personnel track those and pay them. And we've had to deal with the IRS because the IRS, some money comes back through our payments to the IRS. It's been quite challenging. And along with the equipment and everything we're purchasing, my people just done a fantastic job. I do have to come through this year. Utah Grants is the process, the program that we use to apply for grants and receive the money. The directors with the budgets in, Michelle, my accountant, has just been fantastic. She's one of the few that really knows how to run Utah Grants inside and out and how to apply for the money. And so she applies for all of the funds through that. But to complement the directors too, they all know how to put their budgets in it. And it is not an easy program to use. That's fair to say, isn't it?
If Brownie should have plenty of money, they just.
Come through this budget. Like extra grants that teachers and.
Well, it's all supposed to be in here, but
obviously the budget would increase that grant amount, and then the 7 million for the ESSER funds would increase our.
Yeah, we'll have to modify this budget.
This budget to increase the same.
Increase for the 7,
but it will show on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it will eventually, yeah. A couple of other things that I'd just like to touch base with the board if they would just maybe indulge me. Foundation, the school district foundation, Marcy came in today and she said, why does the school board have foundation checks on their board report? She's a foundation secretary. She says the foundation board approves all of these. You are overall responsible for the foundation. It's a component unit of the school district. It exists solely for the school district. So that's why every month you'll see the foundation checks. Just FYI. There's a couple of, we have kind of a touchy situation going on. Touchy, I don't think it's the right word for it, but we've got a complicated issue that I just wanted, in case you hear out in the community about it, so I want you to be aware of it. Back more than 100 years ago, in 1907, when we consolidated as a school district, every city had a school district. Marin School District number 14 existed. And all of the school districts, all of the city school districts, deeded their property to us. We took over their property and managed the schools and became Other School District and all of the county lines. Well, we found out that there are 2 lots in Corinne, on our Corinne school property, that the Corinne School Board deeded to us, but the descriptions were incorrect. So 100 years, more than 100 years ago, when they deeded those, they put the incorrect descriptions on that property. And so technically, we don't own 2 lots that sit in the middle of our property in Corinne. So as we've gone to sell that property, we're finding out that we can't deed the property to the buyer. And so we're working through the legal process, and it's been complicated. I have no idea. I thought we could simply say, we took over for the Corinne School District. They're our predecessor. We're taking over everything, and we could get the county won't recognize us as owners on that property. Since we don't pay taxes, one of the ways they recognize it is if you continually pay taxes, you can go ahead and say, I've paid the taxes on them, that it's my property, but we don't pay taxes. So I've got our legal team working on this, but it's kind of a sticky wicket, and we're trying to figure out how to take care of it. I talked to Chap in Montgomery today. He's the county recorder. He's very helpful, very good, but he's not going to let us have the property. He's not going to let us have deed to the property. He says that he doesn't have the authority to give us to make property in our name. We most likely will have to go to court and get a judge to and give the judge all the evidence and have him assign the property. So if you hear something, could be costly. And so we'll work on. I'm trying to do it without a lot of expense, but my attorneys are saying it'll start at around $10,000 and go up from there. So, just so that you kind of know. Another thing, the superintendent and I have both been contacted by a couple of companies about, is it okay if I talk about the vaping? About a vaping lawsuit, several schools.
I think that's on the agenda.
Oh, is it? Oh, I missed it.
You don't just wait, yeah.
I'll just wait till that. I missed that. Sorry. But we'll talk about that later then. Okay. Anyway, that's all I have. If that's not enough.
Thank you, Rod. I tell you, I'm a math nerd, but those accounting things, I don't, thank you, your department, for those very difficult budgets and extra money that has to be spent in very specific ways. Okay, the next thing that we're putting on our agenda, and I think we're going to do this more frequently, is board committee reports. And so if we've had a committee meeting, like the long-term capital committee or the policies we do every month, so that policy committee, the increment financing committee, if there's any type of that comes, we have during the time right between the 2 board meetings, we would have a time to report on what has been decided or what's been done in those committees, so the whole board can be aware of what is happening. So this month we just have board committee reports, and I am not aware of, but maybe there have been some meetings that have occurred. And since this is the first time, it could be anything, but does anybody have a committee that you are serving on that has an update or things that we should be aware of as an entire board? Okay.
I think, one other thing too, that we mentioned the foundation. I think you may know, but just to double check, Wade is your representative on the foundation board. And so he goes to that. Usually we have about at least a meeting a month. So every other month. Seems like I'm all anyway. And so I would suggest making once a year. I'm not sure what proper time. Wait, take 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of tell what he does and things that he do. That'd be one of the things. Yeah.
Thank you. So just keep that in mind as we go and have our committee meetings. And many times there's 2, maybe 3 people on the committee. If you just want to designate one of you a spokesperson to give that report. But that's just so we can all stay in the loop. Sometimes we just have so much going on and it's just a good way to do that. So I think Tiffany suggested that at our last.
I'd be glad to, help remind, and we'd have, board committee reports, and we'd have
Underneath it.
the committee, and I'd talk to the, when we have the meeting and say, hey, remember, we're gonna do the reports, so.
That's great.
I would try to do my best to be helpful.
Thank you. And I think that will be helpful. So we're all kind of know what's going on even before things happen. So, yes, that's a good question.
Regarding the recognition committee or recognition committee as a solo member. But there are things that you all know about the people we are recognizing that I wouldn't have known much. I got some information from Jamie Kent that was really helpful. But if you know, I will do a better job of saying, sending out an email and saying, this is who we would like to recognize. Tell me about them. Tell me what you know so that those letters can be more meaningful. Or please join in like was done tonight so that he knows that the board as a whole knows him better than just I've never met him until tonight. And so thank you for joining in those conversations and recognitions that these are meeting.
I agree. Okay, so let's move on to our policy review. Now there's several policies on here. You'll notice there's some policies to delete. As we met in the policy review committee last week, when was that? There's a few because of UNCE regulations that are being deleted. So that's the meaning behind that. If you have any questions on that, you can look at that letter from Bennett. So there's policies to delete, and then we have several on first reading, and we don't have any on second reading. So are there any questions on any of the policies to delete or first reading?
Motion to accept the policies on first reading.
Okay, we have a motion by Karen Cronin to accept policies on first reading.
Do you want to add?
Do you want to add the delete?
Yes, and delete.
And the delete policies. Okay. Motion to approve the policies to delete and the policies on first reading, and then Tiffany, and a second by Tiffany Summers. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That will be great. There's a lot. So we have another month to look at it. If something comes up and you need more clarification, we can discuss those. All right. Our COVID-19 update. Superintendent.
Well, there's not a lot of change since last month, other than we have started, school. We had a meeting today with Bear River Health Department, and there is a dashboard that's having some technical difficulties. But right now, we're fortunate in that we're not seeing a lot of numbers. Even Cache Valley, we're seeing quite a few more than we are in the schools. And just as a reminder, the key number is 30. Throughout the state, if you have a school of 1,500 kids or more, it's 2%, but it's also 30 if you're 1,500 or less. If you have 30 cases in students only, that's something I'd missed. It's students only. It doesn't count the employees. Then you have to do what's called a test to stay. And Bear River Health Department they have contracted with a private vendor to come in and help with that. I really believe that there'll probably be some test in our region. I would like to say one of the other school districts before it hits us, if in fact that it does. We're also watching very closely and working with Bear River Health Department. If we get in that 15 student range, to really go out of our way to make sure everybody knows that there's a little bit of a upswing in the passing of the pandemic of the virus, and encouraging masks if you so feel like it. I went into a class just last week where it was 2 days ago, where a student had just been diagnosed with COVID in the classroom. The teacher and I think about half the kids in that classroom had masks on, strictly voluntary. And when we find out a student has the virus or an adult in that classroom, we do have to email everyone that's in that classroom and tell them that they've been exposed. It gets pretty squishy because how close was I? Who was it? Things you can't say. So that makes it a little bit tough. But right now, I think, we're very steady, as the year goes on, the cooler months come along, there's always, just like the flu and cold season, there's gonna be a greater chance of it being bigger. And we're just gonna stay on top of it. We've got Bonnie that's helping us constantly and knows what we need to do. And so just FYI, you may or may not know this. Gary, help me on Box Elder High tests on Monday and Wednesday night.
Yes.
And they're doing that in the parking lot across the street. And Bear River High tests on Tuesday and Thursday night. And they're doing that in the parking lot across.
Actually, that's
Except for your
okay, Monday, Wednesday.
Okay,
And that would be south of an auditorium.
That's right.
The school. And then Tuesday, Thursday is Box Elder High. This is for students and
employees. And they have to register. We made that mistake.
if they register early, they still take walk-ins, but they really want them to register online.
And where is it again? Will you tell me?
They'll just be east of both schools.
East of both schools.
You'll see it, there's like a giant like.
So the old, so it's Bear River High, the old driveway that,
Range.
and then Box Elder High, directly east of the school, north of the seminary building.
So are we paying for these or is insurance covering this?
Insurance is covering.
If you have insurance, they want you to write that down and they might get a payment from the church, but otherwise there's no payment, or if you don't have insurance.
Students can use
Yes.
that will.
And our employees.
And there's also a free test once a week for LT costs after this.
Bear River Health Department's doing it. Yes. Our school nurses are being school nurses.
Maybe it's not just for our students. I mean, anybody in cash can come over on those days, just like we could go over any of their days. But generally, it's kind of the community.
Steve, tonight, in the testing, they tested 43 with 7 positive.
Yesterday it was like between 90 and 100 and had 6 positive. So the rates are higher than last
People
year.
are going because they're symptomatic. And we didn't, test the play last year. We tested everybody. They didn't have symptoms. They just were tested. So we should expect a higher number because people are going with symptoms.
So I have a question on the, like the case count. How are they tracking that? I mean, is it just a daily thing? Because, we reached that 15 or that 30 threshold and like some days, some will drop off. I mean, is it a daily updated or are they monitoring
It
that?
started out, we thought it was by the week, but when we get a case, we call the Bear River Health Department. Gary, is that correct? Or vice versa? It could happen either way. And they put it into their dashboard. And as soon as they get some kinks worked out, we'll get that dashboard up. I think once again, last year we had it on our webpage, district webpage. We can probably do that again, but
No, we didn't.
if we didn't, you did.
I went to the dashboard.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to post it. So I just went school by school. We're doing the same thing now. And on the district web page, under the first district news, we'll have it updated. I'm not going to do it daily. I'm going to kind of look daily. I'm not going to update daily. So we're going to be monitoring, are we heading this way? Are we?
Well, so it may not be posted daily, but we know daily. So if we reach that threshold, we can take it.
I'm going to do it every Monday morning or day.
Okay.
It's really exciting.
And when we get to when we get a number that's just a few before that threshold, we meet with the health department in our group. Is that what we
Yes.
decided?
And then try to determine how, if they're 6 days old, if they're gonna fall off,
Yeah.
all those things are taken into consideration prior to a test to stay. Once again, if we do a test to stay, then you have to take the test and it has to be negative or you cannot come back to school. So that's gonna be our challenge, I'm afraid, this year.
Karen? I was just wondering, are we seeing many kids stay home and wanting to do the online? I mean, not all online, but like.
Right now,
How's that looking?
we haven't, I don't know, Gary, how many online kids do we have in the secondary? We didn't have that many, did we?
Just.
Yeah, it's been very.
Like the teacher. Yeah, teachers doing canvas during. Teachers have to do.
The teachers still do Canvas, but we haven't heard very many kids do quarantine yet, so. I mean,
That's what, I guess that was my.
Yeah,
Well, we need to be aware of that. That's going to be something now that we're monitoring because it is starting to affect teachers.
Yes. Brian?
Question and comment, with the federal lawsuit on what's happening, if you're reading the news, are you hearing anything that impacts us on that or anything from?
Well, they had Utah as one of the 5 states that
Right.
weren't allowing mask mandates. However, that's not really true because individual school districts and individual health departments can have mask mandates. So if we have, and Jordan Mathis, our executive, River Health Department's executive director, has said if we get to a certain number, which I don't know what that is, then he would order a mask mandate. That has to be approved by our county commissioners. And so that it's still possible to do that. I mean, Grand County has done it. I believe Salt Lake City School District has done it. And so it is possible to do it. So I really think that when push comes to shove, that they can show that we're not disallowing mandates. It's just that it's a little bit more localized. That's a good word.
Then one comment, and I heard from the street board member, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, comments on the half day starting next week. And nothing negative, everything totally positive on that, like here from our street board member.
Yeah, it's been really good. I've heard a couple students who have sports practices and stuff, and especially kind of in the sophomores, that they have like a 2-hour gap between when school ends and their practice starts. And so it's like they go home for like an hour and then they have to come back. But other than that, it's been pretty good. And I think that really isn't that big of an issue because it's just for a week. But I mean, I've enjoyed it, and I'm pretty sure most people haven't.
Hey, I hate to ask in a public meeting, but how are the temperatures the last 2 days? And do you have upstairs classes in the afternoon?
I do. I have 2 upstairs classes after lunch. They get, it's a little hot, yeah. The past 2 days, because it's been full days, it's been it's been warm, but it's nothing like completely like, oh, I can't do this. It's just.
It's not quite as bad as last year, maybe.
Yeah, and it's not to the point where it's affecting like my ability to be like listen, learn, and all that. So it's just mildly uncomfortable. But
Well, I think it's supposed to rain Saturday, so a lot of times this time of year, if you have a good rainstorm, it seems like it. I thought I'd seen that.
I just had a question about the test this day. I know it's kind of backtracking stuff on this, but with the test this day, if the student, I'm assuming if we got to that point, there would be multiple students testing positive. How exactly would you make sure they're not on campus? Because like, is every teacher going to know every student that has not allowed? And like, if they don't, I just kind of.
That's going to be tough with HIPAA, but we're told that we can tell them that they cannot, and the principals will certainly know. I don't know if we put a list out there.
Yeah.
Because that's a, like say, a violation. But that is something we are concerned about.
Yeah.
So we're going to work really hard to try to make sure that doesn't happen. So we don't have a, super spreader, I guess.
Those wanted posters.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah, those are good observations. Thank you for your input. Are there any other questions about, I got like 3 emails from my one child today, and I'm assuming he has 3 classes with one person. I'm hoping that's the case, but when these kids, like he's been exposed in 3 different classes. So I'm just hoping that that's all the same class, but that makes me a little concerned is it really spreading? No. So.
Well, right now, I think the biggest I saw today when they put up the numbers was 5. And that was just in one of our biggest schools.
Well, that's good. And hopefully, and I know that I've been in the schools and some, and people are taking, everybody gets to choose, but I feel like people are doing the best that they can. So hopefully that will continue and we can get through this. Okay, any other questions on COVID-19? We're good on that? All right, next we're going to talk about Superintendent ring of fire.
Okay, Keith has it up there. Oh, Keith has it up there already, and I'm gonna be fairly quick because you have read it, and I know Sean hasn't had a chance yet, but we'll try to get it. Oh, did you get that too? Did you read it?
Yep.
Even on school starting?
You were impressive.
Awesome. That was way awesome. Just this summer, we have our superintendent meetings in June. And at every superintendent meeting, we usually have either one or two superintendents that come up and give a presentation. And it's called Getting to Know You. Kind of corny, but that's, there's 41 of us and probably, I guess, 20 of us are less than 3 to 5 years, a lot of new ones. And so this particular superintendent, Rick Robbins, is the Canyon superintendent. He's been at JUAB for a long time prior to being at Canyons, but he gave a presentation on this particular topic, and it really interested me. Keith, if you kick the next one, please. This is a book called The Leadership Moment. It has 9 stories of failure and ways that people have really been able to increase their leadership. And he told a story about the Ring of Fire, and it really intrigued me. And so I got the book as soon as I could and read that chapter and started to liken it unto what we're doing in education and likened it into some of the things that happened in that particular book that are really good examples of the not to do things in life and not to do things in running a school district and being part of a school district. So I'll try to go through it quick. This happened in 1949 in Montana. It was air temperature of 97 degrees, a lot like we've had this summer, really, really low humidity. Really tough thing. There were 15 experienced smoke jumpers. They were experienced because they call them smoke jumpers. They would parachute in, and they worked with a gentleman named Wagner Dodge. And this particular chapter was called Wagner Dodge Retreats in Man Gulch. They went out. The rules back then were that the freshest 13, I believe, guys would go on the next fight to fight the fire. And so they really didn't have teams per se. And so the freshest guys would line up, they'd go get on the airplane and they take off. And sometimes they had worked together, sometimes they had not. Wagner Dodge had been around for a while. He'd worked for 9 years. He was a tough, hard-nosed guy. And the crew that got on the airplane that day, they were all the way from college kids to war veterans. And actually, there was one of them that was 17 years old that kind of, I don't know if he lied or whatever, but he was able to get onto the airplane that day. Next. There was one man already on the ground. He had a map. They found out later it was faulty. They had one radio, and it busted on impact. They had a parachute with the gear, and it hit and broke. And so ultimately, when they all got together, there were 16 men in a bad situation. While they were circling, go next, Keith. I might get ahead of myself. This is a picture, actually. I've got a nephew that lives up in Montpelier, Idaho. He's 20, I believe, and he works for the Forest Service. But during the summer, he's a full-time firefighter, and it just seemed really appropriate. I took a few pictures from his Facebook page, stole that one, and you can see they're hiking away. And once they landed, they got their stuff together, and then they kind of had a quick little plan. Before they did land, Wagner did talk to one guy, and they kind of looked around and, hey, should we parachute there? What do you think about that? They looked at the area. They saw the river. Any of you geography nuts or geog that knows what rivers in Montana? Missouri River. I'm sorry to say I didn't know that for sure, but found that out. And so he did talk to the one guy, and then they jumped. And right there, I know I could never be a smoke jumper because I don't do that high thing. I would never jump out of an airplane. It's hard for me to get into an airplane, as these guys know. Anyway, the winds were swirling around that particular day. They were twisting and turning instead of just straight going, and the speed of the fire was much faster than a normal fire. Okay, go ahead, Keith. you know, just some pictures. I believe that might be my nephew. And just to, you know, most of you in here at one time or another, certainly most of us all used to have Christmas trees that were good old fashioned pine trees. And one of the great things to do after that was to go throw those in a fire. And if they were dry enough, you know, they would basically blow up. I mean, it wasn't just, you know, a nice little roasting fire. Pine trees would blow up. And in the summertime, with the low humidity plus the heat from the fire, those things get really dry. And when they blow up, they blow up. And I, you know, Nancy, come to find out, Nancy was a firefighter. So she's been able to experience all of
For
this.
4 years, that's how I paid for college. I was the wildland firefighter. And so it's interesting when you talk about the winds. On a big fire, the fire creates its own weather. And so when you can come into a situation, the weather will be around you, but when you get into the fire, it turns backwards, it goes up. It's amazing what the weather does in a big fire. And it's pretty awesome.
This particular fire too was right on the edge of the timber, and it was also on some more flat land. And so, you know, I got there, I found that was just a picture I found in general. You know how grass will blow across the prairie, but it was also on the edge of the timber. So it created some unique differences than fighting a fire just in the timber. They basically got into a situation where they didn't know what to do. And there'd been some things led up to this. When they landed, they got separated. Wagner Dodge went back to where they'd stashed their goods and left the guys on their own for a little while. He caught up with them. And it really caused them to not be a very tight-knit group. And it got to the point where Wagner Dodge just was kind of in a panic. And this wasn't something that they had been trained to do, but he just stopped. He had a book of matches, lit 2 or 3 matches, and had a little fire, a ring of fire, stood back, let it grow, and then he jumped into it. And it said, as you read, that 2 guys looked at him, and he saw him waving. In the Facebook page of my nephews, I had to jump back and forth, and so I won't show it tonight. But he was probably standing, I would guess, maybe 50 yards from the fire. And it, as you know, Nancy, it roared so loud, and there's just so much, it's like total confusion.
The ground vibrates.
Yeah.
When you're in a big fire, there is such an energy that literally the soles of your feet vibrate. Well, keep going. But what they're teaching us now is to walk through the fire, because the hottest part is the fire there. And if you can get onto the backside where it's cool. I used to have very long hair and I lost one ponytail going through a fire. But because of this,
This actually helped a lot of training.
they teach you now to walk through that initial thing, which is truly terrifying, but it is cooler on the other side.
So two of the guys actually saw Wagner start that fire, then jump into it. Those 2 looked at him and they saw him go like this, get in. Well, they took off running. One of those was the 17-year-old, and they actually found a rock slide. You read that, and they lived. Those 2 did. But there were 13 more that these 2 guys were able to kind of back up Wagner's story. And he was waving at them, and I believe it's on the next one, Keith, would it be? And this is where I thank you. That was where I showed the Facebook page. But there was actually one of them that they said they heard say, to hell with that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to jump into this ring of fire with this idiot. And so, and then these 13 men, they actually had, you know, you saw in the chapter, they had it pretty close down. I think within 4 or 5 minutes, one of their watches stopped, and they basically were, I don't know if they were burned to death or if the oxygen gets sucked up. I'm not sure sometimes how that happens. But to go on, Keith, if you would, I'm trying to think, what happened in this story, and I likened it unto, you know, being a PLC, was that leadership is product of both today's actions and yesterday's groundwork. The problem at that time was the National Forest Service system wasn't really built really well for collaboration, for teamwork, for, you know, experienced teams to get together and work. As I said, the freshest 13 guys got on the airplane. By the way, there was one guy that you saw that got airsick. He stayed on the airplane. That would have been Steve. And But the fatal combination, that emerged in man golf was partly that Dodge did or did not on August 5th, what he did or did not do, but also partly what he did or not do well before. And from that, I think Nancy knows, and I think I just lost the name of that movie. The one where the guys from New Mexico all lost their lives. Anyway, they were a team and they were from the same community. They practiced together. And so it's interesting that what happened that day was they said Wagner was kind of a tough old bird, didn't talk much, didn't communicate, didn't have a plan, a good plan in place. And I liked that into what we talked about just today. We collaborate. We know exactly what we need to do. We know what we want our students to learn. We have a plan on how to put that into place. And then, we go execute it. Keith, we go next. See, I'm kind of curious what's next. In that credibility spiral, there's a lot of those guys said Wagner lost his marbles and had he gone nuts. By the time he lit the match, he'd lost his credibility because it was just so chaotic. And if they'd had more time to work together and if they'd had this plan in place, maybe it would have been better. So there were several mistakes made in a row. Go ahead, Keith. Misstep early, he sent his crew forward without him when he went back to get his stuff. That's just leaving the guys on their own. It's kind of like, if the principal isn't leading their teachers well enough, they're going to kind of get rogue and do their own thing. And we all know if we've been teachers, the worst mistake you can do is step out, even to take a phone call or something, because it falls to pieces pretty fast in the classroom if the leader's not there. Another misstep was that he had them drop their gear, and once they dropped their gear, they were just scared rabbits running. They were no longer firefighters. There was very little, if any, two-way communication. Some what ifs. Sally and Rumsey were the two guys that ran on, and they actually saw Dodge jump into the fire. They're the ones that ran and found the rock slide, and they lived. But if perchance they would have had just a little bit more confidence in Wagner and would have jumped into the fire with him, there would have been 3 people in that fire, and the other 13 might have said, "Oh, that's going to work. Let's get on board and do it." And that's really the idea with our PLCs and our collaborative teams. When you get 2 or 3 teachers working together, and one of them has a great idea, then the other one joins with that idea, and it just grows in its strength. And the premise is one person could go crazy and be a little wacko once in a while. And luckily I use that premise with me. Some of the things that Carl's know what world he's doing. And so, don't shake your head like that, Carrie. And, but if you have loyal allies and strong leadership team, what do you have next? I believe that there's a picture of these guys after they fought. That's my nephew. And do you remember what that lady said that lake was? Beautiful lake. We had a lady from Montana that said she lived an hour from there and she couldn't tell us what it was. Let's go to the next one. This is where we had discussion with our principals and what have you guys learned and why would I talk about the Ring of Fire in an educational setting? Have I lost my mind? Any thoughts or any ideas how this all, ties together? Everybody's like.
When I read it, I thought it was almost exactly what we're trying to do with PLC. We need to develop that teamwork. We need to have things in place beforehand, and we need to support each other so that other people will join in.
See, in the chapter, it said culture and cohesion. Well, I would put a slash behind cohesion and put culture and collaboration. Same thing, because that is what, as I mentioned in our work session, we used to teach in isolation. Now we teach with collaboration. We work together and work together.
And I just have a comment. When I think it starts with the leadership, like there's got to be communication and collaboration, because if you don't trust your leaders, it's kind of like, why are we doing this and what do you know about this? But if it becomes a culture and you can see the benefits of it, because you can see what's happening, there's more buy-in and more.
Absolutely. Yes, trust.
Thank you.
Well, and two, so many of the fire bosses are not talkative people. They really just expect you to know what to do and where to go and how to go. And when it talked about, there were 16 eyes on the plane, or, sets of eyes. And we need to get buy-in from our people as we go in, and we need to get their viewpoint and look at them. My fire crew, I was bridesmaid at a wedding and left early, but the crew I was on got trapped in a fire and 4 of them died. And there's a monument to them just outside of Dutch John, and that was my crew. And I would have been with them, but I trusted that boss. He was the funkiest kind, but he would talk to you and tell you and tell you why he was doing things. And there weren't a lot of crew bosses that did that because they just expect you to know your job. I ran chainsaws, so I was kind of in a different build instead of doing handling. But you got to express your viewpoint and what you see and what your mission is and what your goal is, and get everybody with you. But I would have followed Willie right up with the other guys. I really would have.
Next, Keith, go ahead.
I know I'm not like like on the inside as you guys are, but just the whole thing with credibility, like I'm sure you guys receive a lot of backlash from parents and whatever, and whoever else, like on multiple different issues. But I know like the Mrs. Kent, like just her consistent, like her weekly emails, like just her updating the community on what's going on. Like it makes me trust her even if there's nothing even happening. And so that continuous like communication, it builds up her credibility. So then when it's to the point when there's a problem and she says something, I would say like, okay, like, yeah, like I wouldn't even think twice about it if Mrs. Kent said something. Yep,
Perfect sample.
that's the credibility that I
Perfect sample. Next click, Keith.
We're at the end of that, but so I have a funny. I think we're done.
Oh, no.
I don't know why it wouldn't go.
That's weird. The Box Elder leadership team, myself, Gary, and Keith, we have 134 years of educational experience. And just, I think, that the word has gotten down through, I think the board knows it, that when we make big decisions, we work together. And, I've got a great team. It's honestly been the pride of my 30, I don't know how many years, my long career to be part of this school district, to be part of this team, because we really have some lively discussions. And, you look at, of that 134 years, probably close to half of it might be administrative, the other half might be teaching. And so we have a culture and cohesion and collaboration. And our hope is, and I know our principals see it, and I do believe our teachers see it, that they know that we're in it together and we're making great decisions, and sometimes we have a little bit of a disagreement, and every once in a while somebody in the room kind of smart aleck says, well, you make the big bucks, it's finally your call. So ultimately that does fall on my shoulders. And so, but most of the time we're able to come to a pretty solid consensus. And so that is something that, we're hoping to be able to trickle on down through. Next slide. Nancy was able to mention, the 4 folks that she knows that lost their lives. There were 13 that lost their lives in that particular fire, and one I talked about earlier, I think they lost 15. And so to that point, that was the biggest one. And so here I am, we're talking about education and lives, but in all honesty, the research shows that if students don't learn to read by the 3rd grade, they have a higher chance of being in prison. If students drop out, they have a higher chance of a shorter lifespan. If they're not taken care of, it is about their lives. And I truly believe that what we do is life altering and it is life changing. So when we get our, I mentioned earlier that term, teacher collective advocacy. When you get a group of teachers that know that the work that they do is going to help save kids' lives and make their lives better, you can really make stuff happen. And they make those good connections with the students and build those caring, loving relationships. Students really do have a great chance to be successful. And I think all of us are sitting here because, obviously I'm in education, but you guys are interested in education, or else you wouldn't be board members. And you all have great stories of teachers that help mold, shape your lives. And so ultimately, you know, the next click there, Keith, you wouldn't mind. I looked into the principal's eyes, and I was able to get this same presentation to all of our elementary that chose to come. And I asked them, you know, will you jump into the ring of fire and, you know, take that chance and become part of us, you know, because we've been doing PLC's collaboration for 10 years plus. And there are still people that battle us. There's still people that aren't 100% in. I think there's still people that give us lip service, but they still go into their classroom after they go to a collaborative effort and do their own thing. And so I asked the principals, the next click, Keith, you wouldn't mind, can you get your team to jump into the fire with you? And that's really what it comes down to, you know, and in everything you do, you know, we had a good example of Mrs. Day in the back of the room earlier. She can get those kids to jump in the fire with her, can they? You know, great coaches, that's what they do. And even in the NFL, if you can get buy-in from your players, doesn't matter if they're making millions of dollars, they got to have buy-in or they're not going to get it done. So in education, it's the exact same thing. And I just, you know, challenged them to all have, that's a whole other topic there. So did that just jump by itself? Thank you.
Well, I kind of gathered that.
That's a whole other topic. Okay. So,
Read the mind.
yeah, thank you. You're doing a good job. So that's our ring of fire. You know, I really enjoyed spending some time on that thing, and I appreciate your comments and thoughts on it. And just really proud of Box Elder School District. I can't lie. I just think we're doing some cool things, and it's just, you know, guys like Jason being able to think Jackie, you know, there's just tons of them out there that do such great work. It's just an honor to be part of this whole system.
Thank you, Superintendent. I think you built a great team, and I think that people are willing to jump into the fire, you know, like they believe in it. And like you said, there's some outliers. We got to bring them in, do the best we can. But I think we've got, and the other thing that I think is, how many employees do we have in our district? 1,100? 1,600.
If you look at subs, part-timers and all that, right?
So 1,600 people doing the little things every day.
Yeah.
It's like a big clock with all those little cogs. And sometimes, you know, if one cog goes loose, then it can ruin up the whole thing. But so many people doing so many good things. I really believe that there's wonderful things happening. So thank you. Oh, Utah, this is where you're going to talk about. Our next step is the vaping thing. So
Yeah, Rod actually got involved in that. I couldn't go that day, so we had a Zoom meeting with some attorneys. So Rod, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I thought when you said this said PTA, I didn't think it was the same thing. Yes, I've been contacted by a law firm, an attorney from Chicago. They want to sue Juul for vaping. There has been a state that has won a lawsuit against them. And I've been trying to find out some information because I didn't know the guy from Chicago from anybody. And finally, I found out that in Utah, we have Curtin McConkie that's going to join in the lawsuit and take a lower percentage of fee. And so there's been some question about whether that has to be board action or not, but I think administratively I have the power to enter in that, but I would like to just make sure that the board is on board with us doing that. Most of the other school districts have decided to join that lawsuit. It's not, I don't understand law, you're talking very well, but it's not a class action suit. It's every district will stand on its own, and then we'll get what we can show that we would deserve on the vaping, and we'll provide them information on what we have with students and those kinds of things. One state won like $40 million in the lawsuit, and it would help us. Gary was telling me a lot of the problems that we have. really help us in our costs. That we, you know, we have to go through.
Probably do, let us have more training, do more.
One of the features that they talked about is when he sat in a presentation every other year when we do a sharp survey. But they're going with that kind of data. They do sharp survey. It kind of breaks your heart when they say Jewel has no intention of reaching an adult population for E6. They're going strictly for youth. And then what they do is they don't mind losing the suit, but they know they have you addicted to nicotine as you become an adult. And so they're fine to lose these suits. And that's pretty disheartening in a way, but they're going after them pretty big time. And we will have that kind of data that we can show, which that's part of the stuff that they
They want us information on the show.
Yeah, if we have that and several other things that we do.
It would be nice if it was just maybe the insight.
Yeah.
Don't know that much. Generally, there's a mixture of variety of foods that say something.
So Rod, what does it entail when you say we'll participate?
Well, we sign up, put our names in the lawsuit. They take 20% instead of the typical 30, where the guy from Chicago was giving us a deal and only take 25%. The Curtin McConkey agreed to take only 20%. I have not seen any downsides. There have been a couple of school districts that have decided not to join because they want to stay out of one of the reasons I read was they want to stay out of they didn't want to get into being part of the litigation mentality. They didn't want it to be another. I can't remember all the reasons. There are 2 or 3 school districts that decided not to join. One of them was Park City, interestingly. And yeah.
Pay only, I mean.
But I mean, there is no cost to us, no. It's a contingency basis. If they win, we get the funds. I haven't been able to find any downside in my research.
We have state superintendent meetings Monday, and I think I've seen that on the agenda, so I would be able to send you an update after Monday to give you some more information. I do think they're well ahead of the game. It seemed like I remember, I thought I got something from Richard Stoll. Did that help?
I saw, and the name Joel Wright was the attorney that they listed from Curtin County.
Yeah.
He's from down in the Utah County area. He did serve on the state board of education. He's kind of a prima donna guy. I'm not sure I want to put my trust in him completely, but hey.
Well, I can let you know more about
that. That was some of my hesitation, as I've had some personal dealings with Joel.
So I was surprised.
So I was kind of waiting, but today on an email chain from other business administrators, most of the school districts are joining this lawsuit. The ones that I have a lot of respect for, that I have done a lot of research. However, one of the 2 that I can think of, Alpine School District has decided not to join.
Because Joel was there.
And
Don't print that, Nancy.
Park City was one of the ones that decided not to. Alpine didn't list the reason. They just said they decided not to join this time. Park City is not joining, and they were the ones I think that were talking about. They didn't want to be part of the litigation race. So maybe the superintendent will learn more, but I think we just kind of ask that you authorize us to do it. We'll give you the information, authorize us to sign up if it sounds good.
Yeah, Tiffany and then Karen.
I might be naive as far as the legal getting into that, but I just think money or no money, and a statement needs to be made that we're not okay with the advertising and the pushing of this on our kids, regardless. Yeah.
I think that's the point I like. I think that's PTA saying, hey, we're not just going to stand idly by, even though it's not going to put them out of business, but hopefully it'll at least ding them a little bit.
I nice if it was a ripple effect.
Yeah, and I think that's what they suggested, even it does sting a little bit. They want to get an addicted population. So that's what they target for youth, but I think, Rod, when we watch that, we really get the position of health and safety for a juvenile and a not fully developed brain. Those are the things that they're gonna really go after, and that's what they need to.
If the parents hear about it and
Yes.
and put it in situations,
Yeah.
then maybe that's.
Yeah.
Karen, I was just gonna ask if our, secondary principals have been involved in this, what their input is. I'm sure that, I'm for it. I just would like, they're the ones that are kind of in the trenches, make sure that they have some input.
We make that an agenda item when we talk.
Yeah, and I think, Karen, our number one on the SHARP survey, the number one, antisocial behavior is vaping. Our number one on, safe school violations, that we hold hearings for are vaping. That is the number one, and that's intermediate, middle, and high school. So we have that data that we keep already. I don't think you have any high school principals tell you that they would want to be involved stuff vaping on the campus.
And just an FYI, if a kid gets caught vaping, it takes several times
Right,
before we
several
get to safe school, but it, certainly one time he has some intervention at the school level, but if it becomes a multiple time, that's how he ends up at our level.
Yes, I was just trying to go back to the story we just went over, get their input early on, because then it'll be a stronger team going forward.
That's a good suggestion. We've got principals meets next week, so we can make sure to get that on the agenda.
That'd be good, and with your superintendents and keep us in the loop about what's going on, because like I said, I think what Tiffany said, maybe it'll bring awareness. If it doesn't hurt the company, at least we're saying this is not okay. And we're doing all we can in our schools to let them know it's not okay, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I met with an individual a couple of weeks ago that's trying to straighten their life around, and I was just totally shocked. He's an alcoholic, he's into drugs, and he gotten help for all of these things, and he said, I think I've taken care of the drugs and alcohol, and I've gotten help with those, I've gotten counseling. I don't know how that breaks back on how. I was just floored by, not to minimize those other things, but it is addictive. And our kids deserve every battle we can make, against companies that are doing what was described. Hopefully we can do more than just make it dent in what they expect us to do, but you gotta stand up before you. I'm super.
Mom, do you see what about, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, every once in a while, student government will, every once in a while, student government will go and will clean up the parking lots because they get, there's a lot of trash in them and stuff, and we've tried fixing the problem, but it's a mentality. Anyways, and it's like every other piece of garbage is like a jewel package or an empty cart or whatever. I don't even know the terminology. I'm just going off of it. But yeah, I know kids, like not know personally, but I know of kids who do vape, and it's like between every class, it's like go to the bathroom and I don't know what the word is, take a hit of your, I don't know. It's not like oh, can't wait to get home and do this. It's like I cannot not do, like it's really shocking, and I'm consistently floored by it. Like it is a problem. It's not just, and it's so many more people than you would think. It's people I've never even guessed. Kids are like, oh, did you hear this person was bad? I'm like, no, I did not hear. So it's a big problem, and I am 100% for whatever we can do.
Well, I have a daughter that just started 6th grade, and she's mentioned vaping, like, not that she's seen, that has heard of it, and I'm like, you're tiny, I'm so sorry, it just kind of breaks my heart that we have, that just makes me mad, actually.
Well, I remember Pete talking about school, and that's been 5, 6, 7 years.
It's been 6, 12, and even third grade out.
Really?
They usually tell their parents.
Yeah.
And then they just try it, take it personally.
Okay, let's move on to something. Maybe sad. Okay. So yes, Ron, let's move forward and then find out any information we can from the principal.
We are working with our attorney on an agreement. She's reviewing the agreement. And she's done the work with Weaver School District, so we will make sure that the agreement is reviewed and kosher, I guess, if you will, by an attorney, so.
Thank you.
Before I forget, at the end of my chapter, I'd like to propose that we read Time for Change. It's an easy read. It's pretty short. And I've got it down to get it done in 3 months because we have another book we really like. 40 pages. So I think 40 pages for each chapter, and I've got kind of a reading schedule there, so. I've got a great book right now that I consider too, but I turn you on to that book.
Good. Okay, so you've got the reading guide in here, so my next board meeting, we'll read up through page 41.
Yep. And we're gonna, Carrie and I talked today, and we talked with Julie, we're gonna brainstorm, we're gonna get you in and brainstorm, find a way to make it a little bit more lively discussion. I'm not sure exactly what we mean right now, but we're gonna.
Well, and one of the things we talked about is maybe having a question or a topic to focus on as you're reading this. And then when we come to the board meeting, it will be a discussion rather than just 3 random people we'll discuss, just maybe we're all kind of focused on one thing. So I've loved the book discussion we've had in the past, but we want to take what we're learning and actually apply it and make it work. So we'll let you know as soon as we know. Before October 12th, probably before.
We'll let you know.
So we'll give you a week, right? Because how many, some of you are good. I'm like the day before. Oh, yeah. That way I remember it.
Yeah.
All right, consent items. Any questions on consent items?
I'll move you approve consent items.
I was just gonna say, I wanted to clarify the statement I asked for, like, to put in there. And I don't know if I just wanted it to be known that of the proposed increase, just less than half is going to maintenance, the other half is going to teacher salaries, and that we're trying to be vigilant without being extravagant. If it's okay, just give that to Rod, that wording at the end of this.
Is that from the minutes from last month?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in there.
So I didn't word it as good as I thought I did.
So now that Nancy's gone, I just want to applaud you guys for passing the truth in taxation and it not making it into the Brigham paper. I came home, it's interested to read and see what happens. You guys, I don't want you to it makes it.
It really shouldn't. Everybody was on vacation that week.
No, we had a good session.
Yeah, we did. Everybody from the paper, I guess, is what I was thinking. Okay, so did you say that your things were in there that you wanted? So.
Well, it is. It just wasn't as concise. So if it's okay, I would just give this
to Rod. Okay. Okay, so.
I'll second Nancy.
Okay, so we have a motion by Nancy and a second by Karen to approve the consent items with the wording that Karen has given to Rod. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
And made the second was a comment.
Karen. Okay, suggestions for future board meetings. If you look on there, what we have outlined for October and coming up.
One, something you'll have to approve.
Okay.
Approval item, and that would be LEA specific licenses.
Right.
Our deadline is October 15th. We're holding off, waiting for all of our associate licenses, which are kind of our alternate routes. They've all applied, they're doing their thing, but it takes a while for the state. So if they do not get that approved, then they need a license to get paid. And so we go with an LEA specific license.
So you'll have those by
now. We did learn just 2 weeks ago that special ed teachers cannot teach on an LEA specific license. Last year they could. This year they have to be enrolled. They have to have their associate license and enrolled either in a university-based program, or they have to be enrolled in what they call the Appel SPED program sponsored by the state. Because all of this was sort of Wait. We're in a rush for the handful of teachers, couple of them. Anyway, I just think that we don't know what that looks like. We're gonna put it probably on the agenda about board review
Okay.
and, or agenda review, and we'll say, okay, this is things we need to approve for this year or 2 years, whatever.
Okay, so that'll be on our October board meeting, but we won't know until right before to.
Right, I'm not gonna, we're gonna take as much time for the state to do what they need to do. So anyway, if we could ask that, that might become actually a regular October occurrence.
Okay.
Julie, just
Yeah.
sometime if you get another date, then we can go toward that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that really quickly because sometimes before board meeting, it's a little tricky and sometimes it's best. So what works best for everybody? Like, do you prefer before a board meeting or would you rather have a different date? And Corey's been fabulous. I think he will work with us what we want, but maybe have a preference or. So I'm just gonna pick a day and you're gonna.
I was gonna say, before board meeting works good for me, because I kind of just save that, most of that.
Okay.
Afternoon before, but I can make whatever.
Okay, so, that's what I was gonna say, Brian. I know that's a little bit tricky.
Do you have Fridays?
Sometimes. But it's also getting dark earlier. Yeah. And that's
See the light.
I can do any, I just thinking that I thought you had some Fridays and that might be better for you.
So I know Brian and Connie, you guys are our work, is anybody else working full time or doesn't have what's the, like, what's the, like, when could you come if we could work something out? So the rest of us could work around that, like what?
You know, I really can make most things work. I really can.
The Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Thursday.
I'm okay with that. Does anybody have, let's look at, so next week is our Leadership Academy. What if we talked about, let's see. Thursdays are better for me because my husband's busy on Tuesday, so I.
Thursdays is better for me.
Thursday better for you, okay. So what if we look at like Thursday, maybe the 23rd? That's, is that next week? No, that's 2 weeks. 2 weeks from, because next week's our Leadership Academy, maybe the 23rd. Maybe I'll talk to Corey and maybe like, what time did you say, 5?
Well, when are the construction, we don't want to get them in construction.
They're usually done by 5, aren't they?
Yeah, so 5:30, I would match with.
Okay, so maybe I'll talk to Corey and see it sometime between 5:30 on Thursday, the 23rd, and then we can, and if you can't make it, that's okay. I mean, we know it's busy, but we just want to give you the opportunity to take a look at it. So Thursday, I'll email Corey. And
What time are you thinking?
like 5 or 5:30. I'll find out from him what's best for to get on that, and then
Which Thursday?
the 23rd.
So one thing that was nice, and I don't know if you can come, they had one of the architects from PRBO on Saturday, or on last Friday. Or whatever. Anyway, it was really nice.
We did not sure.
It could probably be that Thursday, that's when they have their meetings.
Because that was really nice.
I think, yes.
It's Friday. Their meetings are Friday at noon. That's why he was there, because we were timing it, that meeting.
Well, we'll see and what we can do with that. Any other topics for future board meetings that we would like to?
Nancy, last year, you provided, school end training, school end trust training. We'd like to do it in October, so we can look for that throughout the year.
Okay.
But we don't know if you have the training this year or.
Actually, they're kind of changing things a little bit, but one thing I would like, I need to talk to the superintendent. We've got a template that is coming out from the state office to go to every single legislator, telling them exactly how much money is going to their schools. And I would like to visit with you sometime. Are you going to be leadership? Are you going to be? And I'd like to talk to you sometime next week. Because that's a really cool form that anyway, that I think we.
Well, I think what they're doing is trying to get everybody to not dip into the trust funds money for other things. And so.
But part of my concern is when you see all these huge numbers, I'm like, we're gonna go, why are they here? Why are we?
So anyway,
So Julie,
yes, Robert.
I need to get before the board sometime and discuss what we're doing with filtering so that we can be E-rate compliant with the funds that we get from E-rate.
Okay.
So I just need to do a little training and talk about our filtering and talk about how we're SIPA compliant
Okay.
and all of those things. So,
We do that in November? Or
yeah,
do we
yeah.
do sooner?
Oh, I'm not in a rush.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say October's kind of full, but
Yeah, so let's do it when there's a little bit more time.
okay.
I can get ready better, so. Put me on there sometime.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, the next upcoming events, USBA Leadership Academy is next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I understand Connie, Karen, Wade, me, Nancy are going. Is that correct? Tiffany, I know you're gonna be out of town. Ryan wasn't able to make it work. Rod, are you going? No, and superintendent, no. Okay, so that's on. So we gotta go early to get a table because our guys aren't gonna be there. What are we gonna do? And one other thing on, speaking of, so our January meetings, I'm assuming are still gonna be happening hopefully in person. But maybe you all got the emails, from the USBA, the MBA awards, and they're doing monthly challenges. And so be working on your MBA. I know that's one of those things sometimes you're like, oh, wow, that's just another thing, but it's really just to help us be better. So the things that we're doing should be going toward that. But the monthly challenge is to contact your state legislator and tell them what good things you're doing. So that's the challenge this month. And if we do it all as a board and let me know that you did it, we can get a chance to win like $20 gift card or something per person. So anyhow, but it is good. Let our legislators know what's happening in our district and anywhere. So, any other, I don't think we have anything from our board handbook.
Signature from you right after board meeting.
For me? Okay. Good. Good.
I made a good motion.
Oh, Karen motion that we adjourn. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Are you?